A very warm welcome to all of you. This is Business Today, your weekly business roundup brought to you exclusively on Channel I. Today is 16th of August 2017. We are in the middle of a very busy month and there are many activities taking place around the global and local market. So with all those happening around, we are ready to start our show for tonight with Business Personality segment. Yes, the business personality joining us today represents a well-known organization in Sri Lanka, and he heads a sector that plays an integral part of the country's supply chain. So let's first connect with the introduction to meet our guest.
Mr. Jagath Pathirana, joining Finco Limited in 1983 as a management trainee, has excelled and held management positions at senior level for over 3 decades. With over 23 years in logistics, beginning with Ceylon Shipping Lines and moving to Asha Pership Group before being in diverse business entities such as Daewoo Corporation South Korea and Webcraft Games Incorporated, New Jersey, USA. He joined Expo Lanka in 2005 as a director. Recognizing his skills, foresight and innate leadership qualities, he was appointed as the CEO of EFL. In addition to his existing role as CEO Director of EFL, he has been appointed as Chief Administrative Officer of Expo Lanka Holdings Private Limited, Sri Lanka, with effect from 1st of June 2017. Mr. Jagath Pathirana's knowledge and the strength of his cordial relations with industry stakeholders won him accolades and trust within the industry. He served as an Exco member, treasurer, vice chairman, and now holds the position of chairman of the Sri Lanka Freight Forwarders Association. He was the former secretary of the Association of Container Transporters and Association of Container Terminal and Depot Operators. He has represented the company and the country at many national and international forums, including the representations made to the EU Parliament, EU Investment Forums, UNSCAP, FIATA and FAPPA. He is a committee member of the Shippers Council and also been in advisory panels, with the latest being the National Advisory Council, apart from representing SLFFA at the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. He is past pupil of St. Thomas College, Mount Lavinia, with post-collegiate training and qualifications in marketing and business studies in UK and India.
Right, he is Mr. Jagath Pathirana. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Expo Freight Private Limited, and he's also the Chief Administrative Officer of Expo Lanka Holdings PLC. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Nisanka. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Right, we're indeed happy to have you here. So to start our conversation, Expo Lanka was established in 1978, almost 40 years ago. So can we start our conversation by talking a little bit about its history?
Yeah. We were very much into fresh vegetables exports out of Sri Lanka way back in 1978, when we started our journey from a shop front in Peta.
Okay.
And with the liberalization of the industries in Sri Lanka at that time, we saw the potential in having some startup, and with that we started our operations in perishable exports. And then, of course, we have organically grown across many other business sectors. And we were initially into a few businesses like the transport operations, transport and warehouse operations. Initially, we started the transport operations in 1982 to be precise.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the freight company we started. Mm-hmm. And then when we went into travel and leisure, trading and representation, and also manufacturing and strategic investments. And what we did was we built some brands along the way. We built Expo Lanka Freight, which is now marketed as EFL around the world. then that is the freight business that we embarked in. And then, of course, the classic travels, which is a household name in the local fraternity, the business as well as the households. And then of late, Expo Rail, which has also won hearts and minds of people who travel around the country in a much better environment in a Expo Rail compartment. Yeah.
So lovely. So with that, previously Expo Lanka was 100% locally owned organization, but there was a recent change in ownership. Can you elaborate on the current stand of the organization?
In the last 10 years, we grew very organically, and we were quite an entrepreneurial business led by very dynamic entrepreneurs. So they were very much keen in expanding the business to a different level. And to establish that position way back in the 2005, we brought about a holding company to hold all these companies together and see to the development. And in 2011, we wanted to go public, and we went public with an initial public offering, and then we attracted investors to come in. So there were many who came and wanted a stake in our company, and we were not ready to give away any stake to stakeholders who wouldn't build the company forward. The intention of going public was to bring in funds to look at the next phase of development. So we embarked on this, and we were successful in securing SG Holdings, which is a Japanese company, which is actually the parent company is in Japan. The SG Holdings is the investment company based in Singapore. They were keen in looking at our company as a possible investor. So SG Holdings took over controlling stake of 51% of the company. Right. And then thereafter the development took place.
Right. So with that move, today the major shareholder of the organization is a foreign party. So what are the value additions that you hope to bring in with this move?
Yeah, I would like to also mention that with this takeover, 2 years down the line, they saw the potential of the company further, and they upped their shareholding to 67%. So they have even gone beyond the 51% to 67% because of the promise of this business, which is going well for us. You asked the question about the values.
Values you hope to bring in to the organization.
The intention was very clear and very precise. We wanted to expand. We wanted to span the globe, length and breadth of the globe. We were in 18 countries with 59 offices. So with this, we wanted to expand further. We wanted to concentrate more on the freight and logistics business that we excelled in. And the strategic move was to ensure that that took place.
Right. So now let's talk about Expo Freight. As you are the Chief Executive Officer and you have been the CEO for the past 10 years, can you talk about the progress the company has made so far over the past decade?
Yeah. I would like to talk about Sri Lanka per se, because I run the Sri Lankan operations. In Sri Lanka, we were really point-to-point forwarder with point-to-point deliverance only. And we didn't span the length and breadth of the supply chain. And we were only concentrating in one segment, whether it was ocean freight or whether it was air freight. Inland trucking was not very much a concern to us. It was handled by various other parties. So we knew that there was more scope in this business, and then we invested more into the other areas of activity. And with that, for the last 10 years, we have grown quite a lot into our logistics arena, where when I say logistics, it is all to do with transport, container transportation and trucking operations, and also to warehousing and value-added services. And of late, we were the pioneers in starting up the hub operations under the Hub Act, which was one of the government initiatives in the last, in about 2 years, maybe about 2 years ago. And with that, we have expanded heavily into a real integrated logistics service provider.
Great. So with that, can you also give an overview of the local industry, Sri Lanka's freight forwarding industry? How big are the activities taking place in this industry?
I represent Sri Lanka Logistics and Freight Forwarders industry. There are 551 members in the organization or the association. Apart from this association, there are many other associations. I'm sure there
550.
Yes, I think there are about 550. That's the estimation. I would rather say it's a guesstimation. There are no statistics to support, hardcore statistics to support. So this industry is quite large. It's a multi-billion rupee industry. And it supports the entire supply chain of this country, and also it facilitates the exporters and the importers in a very big way to ensure that their raw materials and their finished goods are transported in and out of the country and within the country.
Okay, so we spoke about the size of the industry, and we also spoke about the progress of Expo Freight. Now let's talk about the contribution that is coming from Expo Freight to develop this industry.
Expo Freight has been one of the pioneers, and we have pioneered some of the new things that were there during that time. You know, I think lots of people wouldn't even remember. We grew with the apparel industry, and in the apparel industry there were requirements for QA centers, quality assurance centers. And we pioneered in this quality assurance centers being positioned in the CFSs, where before the exit or before the containers were, or the cargo was loaded into containers, the last point of contact was the CFS, the container freight station. So we brought in the QA centers into the CFSs. That was a pioneering effect. Then we also saw the need for garment on hangers. We call it GOH. Garment on hangers were pioneered by us. We were the first to start garment on hangers. Then there was also a need for the industry to look at where there were, missed sailings. When shipping lines, the shipping lines cut-offs could not be met by the exporters. We wanted to facilitate them with lesser costs as opposed to air freighting of the goods. In those days, even at present, when there is a failed shipment or a shipment that could not meet the ocean, the deadline, it has to be air freighted. So then you have a scenario where you have a huge cost coming into the exporter, and that needed to be mitigated. So we brought in a new concept. We said, okay, the first leg of the cargo will go by air or by ocean freight to catch a vessel or aircraft in Dubai or somewhere where it transits. So by doing that, we managed to reduce the cost of air transport and combine it with the ocean freight, and then give that benefit to the customer.
To the customers.
So those three were the initial pioneering efforts that we did, and also of late we have come up with a new concept in the transportation trucking industry. We have built a new software where we integrate all the trucking companies. It is the Uber model or the Pick Me model that we adopt. And we started it long ago into our freight industry and the trucking industry. I must also mention about the hub operations. That again is a pioneering effort of Expo Lanka Freight. We were the first to start up the hub in this country under the Hub Act, which was sanctioned by the government, and we exploited that opportunity, and we went into it fully blown.
Great. So with that, can we also talk about your global presence, as you're present in over 20 countries and 59 cities. So what was your strategy in terms of expanding your boundaries in the international market?
It was really a very big opportunity that came by. In the 70s or in the early 80s, the government was giving a lot of attention to the apparel industry, and with the expansion of garment factories going and stretching out into the countryside, there were lots of opportunities for the apparel industry to grow. And then came with the war, which was prevailing at the time. Things were not going right, and the buyers' attention was getting diluted towards Sri Lanka. And then we saw other emerging markets or potential manufacturing bases coming into being in other countries like Bangladesh, India, and other countries, Indonesia, Vietnam, and so forth. So the buyers and the manufacturers were all our customers, and then we knew they were going to go places, they were going to start up operations in those locations, and we followed suit. So we actually followed the trek of the apparel industry. Right. When it went overseas. Okay, so very interesting, but you just mentioned that your strategy in terms of global expansion was to follow the routes of apparel exports. In this situation, there's another question. How risky is this strategy, as your main volume is heavily dependent on one salient sector? How do you mitigate risk in this situation? It's very interesting. In fact, when I came to Expo Lanka, when I mentioned this about in a SWOT analysis, my boss at that time, he said, we will never give up apparel. We will never give up fashion logistics. That's in our blood. That's what we want to be in. Mm-hmm. We will grow that. Whilst we are growing that to a different level, we will grow others. So we have mitigated the risks, and we are aware of it, and we have got into other areas of activity. We have launched perishable cargo into our portfolio. We are into electronics and white goods, as you call it, the household apparatus and various other equipment. We are into pharma, mostly in India. We are into pharma. In Sri Lanka, we have just started it small. We are into project cargo and warehousing and value-added services. That is a new sector which is emerging and which is doing quite well. And of course, you know, the brokerage that is required, that's part and parcel of the freight industry. And very recent addition is the relocation services, because we see project cargo is complemented with relocation services, and that has also got into our business portfolio. So we are trying to mitigate the risk by having different segments or different verticals into our business portfolio. Right. At the same time, there's a huge trend developing towards online business, and it has come to a point where even groceries are being purchased online. So what is the impact on the freight forwarding industry with e-commerce becoming more and more popular? I don't see a immediate threat there, because ours is a B2B business. B2B service that we offer. The one that you are talking of, the online purchases, are more to do with B2C. Okay. Of course, there can be a trend towards reduction of the volumes, but then we need to still deliver the goods to at least a DC, a distribution center in some part of the world. Okay. So manufacturers will still need to have bigger stocks of cargo or items or whatever you call it, delivered to a point from where it gets dispersed or delivered on by courier service or some other means to the end user. So as far as it is today, there is not much of a threat, but then we are getting ourselves geared to help in this entire supply chain requirement. Right. So at the same time, competition seems to be vicious in this business environment, and we see prices coming down every day. And sometimes you find free delivery, free shipping being offered on most websites. So how do you handle this situation? How do you tackle price competition? Price competition in terms of e-commerce business that you are talking of, or the online purchases, It's very interesting to study this. In fact, I went into a little bit of a conversation with a partner who is in this business and who is one of our customers and prospective customers. What he says is that when there is a delivery that needs to take place to any part of the world, Amazon or any other big-time e-commerce platform will offer the same amount irrespective of the location.
Okay.
So what that amount is really big for a different country. Now, for instance, for Sri Lanka, it could be quite a high price. But to the US market, it would be much lesser. So they build up quite a substantial amount of money or margin to ensure that what is costly, the cost that is more in a different country could be set off. So in a sense, ultimately, they still can offer the cost benefit to a country which is having a lesser amount of cost.
Okay. Any other trends that you have observed across the globe in freight forwarding industry?
Yes, of course, there are now e-commerce, or you call it online platforms, offering freight forwarding solutions. What they do is it's like a Uber model. You go to the internet and you get into their website, and you can select the place of delivery, the place of pickup, and then you can select the mode, whether it is air or ocean, or whether you need trucking, whatever services. So these are yet to become realities, because it requires a lot of coordination, because it has to be seamless. It can't be just magic on a website. So you need to cross borders, you need to do warehousing, you need to do trucking operations, you need to store goods in a location before it is delivered to the ultimate consignee. So it's a very complicated, very complex operation. So doing it online is quite a complex and quite a task.
Right. So at the same time, you are also the chairman of Sri Lanka Freight Forwarders Association. So can you talk about its role and its responsibilities?
This is something that I would like to take some time and also to refer some notes if I am permitted to. Sri Lanka is emerging as a shipping hub, and there is a lot of buzz about it. There's a lot of talk about it. But it has only become a kind of a dream for the moment. But of course, I must say that, of late there has been a lot of forums at which this requirement of Sri Lanka becoming a hub has been surfacing. And if you really look at the region, you have the South Asia region. There is a population of 1.7 billion people in and around us. They all need their goods and services delivered to some part of the world, and they need some goods and services to be delivered to themselves. So we are talking about 1.7 billion population right close to our nation. Then we are also talking about India, we are talking about emerging other markets like the Middle East, consumer markets. I'm talking of the Chinese markets are wanting branded goods now. So there is a huge potential for this industry to grow. So Sri Lanka is very strategically located. So this is why we went into this hub operation. And what we need is now to position ourselves like how Hong Kong place themselves with China.
Okay.
Right. Sri Lanka definitely can be like Hong Kong to China.
Right.
We can be to India.
Right.
So this is something that we need to look at, and also the regulatory authorities in Sri Lanka need to facilitate this dream, and they need to really simplify laws. They have to simplify procedures and processes, and in line with regional standards. That's actually, we have been representing the country at various forums, and we see a lot of potential in a lot of gaps also, And then there needs to be some authority looking at these requirements and looking at the trends in the other parts of the world, at least in the region, and support it. So there is a dire need to facilitate, to bring in ease of doing business in this country.
Right. So what are the key challenges you see in this industry, and actually the industry is facing in the long and medium run?
Value addition.
Key challenges.
The key challenges would be to compete in a market where there is not much of FDIs coming in. I mean, I'm talking about the immediate scenario in the country. Foreign direct investment is very, very slow. So there is only organic growth, and there's no, we don't foresee a huge potential or huge growth in volumes of cargo. Like, you need to have FDIs coming into the country. There has to be manufacturing that needs to take place. There needs to be some value addition happening. But then there is also fear that, Sri Lanka is not considered as a place where manufacturing of garments and various other low-end labor-intensive production can take place, because Sri Lanka is now emerging to a middle-income group country.
Okay.
So with that, we don't see big-time factories coming into Sri Lanka. So the possibility here would be to get into value-added services and hub operations. So this is where we have pitched ourselves, and we are urging the other peers and other competitors to come into this arena to help Sri Lanka grow.
Right. So being a veteran in this field and holding key positions in the freight forwarding industry, what are your suggestions to develop this industry?
As I said before, one thing is, policy framework. There needs to be some consistency. Even at this time, we are talking about policy changes. We are talking about tax regimes being reframed and revisited. So there is no consistency in the regulatory framework. There is no consistency in policies. There is no consistency in tax regimes, so which affects our business. So when anybody wants to put in an investment, they would also want some consistency, something to sustain their business until they recover their money or their investment. So that is one thing that is required. And then also to facilitate e-commerce. There is no, in Sri Lanka, we are very slow in adapting to the new trends in the world. For instance, even in Myanmar, if you talk about Vietnam, there is a lot of facilitation towards e-commerce. And this trend needs to be supported. And if we don't, if the governments, if the policymakers don't realize this and come forward, we are going to be overtaken by some of these countries. So our instant appeal to the policymakers and the government institutions and whoever who is the stakeholders in this entire thing is to ensure that we keep pace with these trends. And if I talk about Sri Lanka is still slow in adapting to the acceptance of digital signatures. Mm-hmm. So we still need to print a document. We have e-commerce platforms, we have customs, we can submit documents, but the digital signature is not acceptable. So therefore we need to still run a hard copy, sign it manually and go to customs along with that document. So this kind of thing needs to be fast-tracked, and facilitated.
Okay, so now I will ask you a different question. And if you look at yourself, what do you see as your key strengths to come to this position today?
You're asking a personal question.
Yes, as we would like to inspire our audience through your success story.
Yeah. Personally, I'm very very receptive to the critics, criticism or whatever inputs. I listen a lot. I am a good listener, and I do a lot of consultation as a result. So whatever that to take decisions, I need a lot of information. It doesn't mean that I am slow in taking decisions, but I need a lot of information before I take a decision, and that decision needs to be correct. So that's part of me, and also I'm good in meeting challenges. When I'm challenged, I'm at my best. Okay. So whenever there's been a challenging environment, I have come out well. So wherever I want to be good, I challenge myself. So the requirement is not to be complacent, not to be to get into a routine task. Instead, get involved and challenge yourself, challenge the system, challenge your own self. And I'm a firm believer that one has to challenge himself and compete with himself and not with others.
Right, great piece of advice, and thank you very much for joining us today. It was indeed lovely having you with us.
Thank you very much, Nisanga. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity.
Right,
Thank you very much.
With that, we will move on to a short commercial break, and we will be back with you soon. Welcome back to Business Today. And an important part of balancing your life is knowing how to balance your income and expenditure. Knowing how to manage your personal finance is very, very important. So we hope to share some tips as to how you could manage this situation.
Most people find it hard to create a budget. In this video, we'll review our top 10 budgeting tips to help you organize your finances and secure your financial future. Keep it simple and personal. Software like Excel can help you stay organized. Anticipate expenses and use accurate figures. Try to project your expenses for the entire month. Keep a target and maintain a buffer. Discipline is going to play a major role in your success. Categorize your expenses. Create a budget for fixed and variable expenses. Track cash expenditure. Spending cash is typically the Achilles heel of most budgets. Maintain more than one bank account. Have one bank account for fixed bills and other variable expenses. Clear your debts as soon as possible. The sooner you pay off bills, the less interest you pay. Organize billing cycles and expenditure patterns. Pay your bills in chronological order when possible. Keep a constant eye on your budget. Review your budget weekly to make sure you're staying on track. Maintain a positive attitude. Keeping a positive attitude and practicing discipline with your budget will ensure success.
Right. Credit cards have become one of the most commonly used payment mechanisms these days. So with that, there is an increasing trend of credit card-related fraud taking place. So we wish to share with you some tips as to how we could mitigate fraudulent activities.
With hundreds of social media outlets, the threat of credit card fraud has become greater and greater. A big reason for this is mainly due to the fact that many people are just unaware of the possible dangers that lurk on the internet. Many of these dangers can be prevented, however, by having a general understanding of online security. Here are 8 tips to reduce credit card fraud online. Number 1. Never give out your credit card number without knowing why. Number 2. When shopping online, make sure you are using a trusted website. This can be identified by links to external validation sites such as McAfee Secure, Komodo Secure, the Better Business Bureau, or PayPal. Number 3, do not post a picture of your credit card or debit card online, ever. Number 4, do not share any bank account information on public or private forums or message boards. Number 5, always encrypt emails that contain sensitive information and avoid sending bank account or credit card numbers. Number 6, after using a public computer, make sure that you are logged off completely. Number 7, do not cache credentials on any computer that is not your personal or trusted computer. And finally, number 8, do not click links or respond to emails that seem suspicious. Users can check the safety of a link by hovering over the URL to ensure that the site link is pointing to the same as the site to which the user will be directed.
Right. At the same time, there's a huge trend developing towards online purchasing. So we wish to share some information as to how the payment system works in online purchasing. So let's connect with the video clip.
You're looking to offer your customers a safe and easy way to pay online. Since all payment processors aren't created equal, it's a really good idea to know the ins and outs of how an online payment functions from start to finish, so you can avoid pitfalls and make the most effective choice to protect and grow your business. The main players in an online payment are you and your customer. To accept credit cards from customers, you'll need a couple of things: an internet merchant account and a payment gateway. On top of that, you can also choose to include an alternative payment method, like PayPal, to service those customers who shy away from using credit cards. Once those pieces are in place, here's what happens next. A customer makes a purchase from your checkout page by submitting their payment information. That information is then sent to the payment gateway. The gateway then encrypts the payment information and shuttles it to a series of approved payment processors and networks for authorization, where the payment is either accepted or declined. That decision then shoots back to your customer, and all that flurry of activity takes place in about 2 seconds. The final step happens after the gateway sends the transaction to the payment processors, and the money is transferred from the customer's bank into your account. So as you've seen, a payment moves through several parties, often with varying providers for each transaction. Since things can get really complex really fast, some payment solutions make things easier to manage by offering everything you need bundled together into an all-in-one solution. If you already have an internet merchant account, some solutions allow you to use a gateway to accept credit cards and offer the option to add alternative payment methods. There are, in fact, all kinds of different solutions out there. Before you decide on the best online payment system for your business, make sure the solution you choose provides solid answers to the following questions. First, is it secure? Search for a payment solution that's PCI compliant, has a trusted name, and make sure it's safe with systems that have never been breached. Second, is it reliable? Look for a solution that's always available with backup systems in place. And finally, is it easy to use? You'll want to get up and running quickly, so your solution should be easy to integrate and flexible, with accessible technical support and resources so that it can meet your needs as your business grows. And to keep things easy for your customers, make sure you can accept an order on your website, in online marketplaces, over the phone, and even in person. When making this important decision, it's worth taking the time to find a payment solution that provides the security, reliability, and ease of use needed to continue earning high marks from your customers as your business enters the world of online payments.
Yes, with that, we got to wind up for today, and we hope you obtained some useful insights from today's show. Thank you for being with us. Take care and good night.